And the political agreement advances international law, so that, of course, under SPP, the border is going to be kept open because that's a primary agreement of the Security and Prosperity Partnership Agreement. And then when you've got this avian flu and pandemic influenza SPP agreement, it puts everything under the United Nations. The North American plan is under United Nations and World Health Organization guidelines. And that's just clear. The standards and guidelines of the World Health Organization and the rules of the world, are the rules that in North America would apply to the management of any health pandemic or health crisis. And the U.S. military, which has agreements with the Canadian military, is ready to act in a capacity if there should be an emergency situation. Remember, Alex, I also reported that under these Homeland Security and National Security directives that were issued by President Bush, I believe in 2007, because I'd have to go and get the exact numbers, but Homeland Security Directive 51, and I can look those up here in a minute.
John Warner Defense Authorization Act.
All of these two specific directives that I wrote about give the president the opportunity to declare an emergency, including a health emergency, under the president's own authority, without necessarily getting concurrence from Congress.
No, in fact, Congress isn't allowed to see those agreements, and that's why they're angry and upset.
None of these agreements have gone through Congress, including the SPP document that agreed that there was a North American plan for avian and pandemic influenza. That did not go to Congress to get approved, nor did these two presidential directives that were signed by President Bush go to Congress to get approved. So the president could declare a health emergency, could say the World Trade Organization rules apply, and the blue helmets are available if needed, and tasked through the Department of Defense the U.S. NORTHCOM to utilize military in situations that could be quarantine or martial law or whatever was else required for the health emergency.
And Dr. Corsi, they've been saying this on the news, talking about foreign assets, NORTHCOM, forced inoculations, lockdowns of cities. But, oh, no, we'll never lock down the border. I'm not even saying lock it down for this. The point is they just say that is absolutely sacrosanct. You don't touch that. That's a taboo. But if you want to lock down U.S. cities, that's wonderful. And clearly the UN said greatest threat ever facing humanity in 90 years, could kill millions, could kill billions. Absolute fear-mongering. So my family took it serious, too. You said your family. People are like, my wife's like, let's do something. Let's be safe. And I said, okay, we'll play it safe. Because even though the government does cry wolf, you still have to take it serious when they say this could be the worst thing, since Adolf Hitler, basically. But clearly, they're now admitting this is a PSYOP to beta test martial law, which they need to PSYOP test because clearly we're going into this worldwide economic collapse.
Well, here's the evidence that I know is the case, okay? So first of all, now we're having the government coming out and saying Mexico has announced that the H1N1 flu epidemic, they won't call it swine flu anymore. Mexico says it's past its peak. The U.S. government, the World Health Organization, however, says we shouldn't lower our guard. Okay, yet at the same time, it appears to be no more severe than the normal flu. In fact, the normal flu, I bet if you had the statistics, kill more people on an average flu season than this N1H1 virus is going to kill altogether worldwide.
Stay there. No, it does. We have 36,000 die a year. Some say it's really 15, but the government CDC says 36,000. More than that die in Mexico. 250,000 die worldwide on average each year from flu, and we've had less than 50 people die from this thing worldwide, and a couple thousand sick. So clearly, this is the model of global tyranny they're going to use. Stay there, Dr. Corsi. The good old folks at New Silver Solution, and the website is supernaturalsilver.com. Supernaturalsilver.com. This is something that kills bacteria, viruses, you name it, well documented. They've got it down to a super small, nano-sized particle. Supernaturalsilver.com. Check them out at Infowars.com. Supernaturalsilver.com. We're talking to Dr. Jerome Corsi. We carry his book that's since been updated, The Late Great USA. It's great to give to friends and family that don't know about the North American Union, the globalist takeover. Dr. Corsi, You write, I write about PDD 51, how they'll use flu pandemics to set up the North American Union and expand police state. They're openly saying forced inoculation, roundups, arrests, troops. The Kentucky Derby has regular Army arresting fans that jumped on the track after the horse won Saturday. That's in the news. The troops are on the streets. Northcom, 20,000 troops, Homeland Brigade. All of this stuff that I particularly talked about 10, 12, 13 years ago is now openly out there, and people then still email me saying, don't fearmonger about the troops. You know, this is completely abnormal to have troops running around. Then 3 weeks ago, you may not know about this, Tennessee governor found out because of this show about military checkpoints they were running in the newspapers. And the military, when the governor said don't do it, the military said, we don't care. We're going to go ahead and do it. And they did it, Dr. Corsi. I mean, this is getting to be out of control.
The two directives that I wrote about, and I wrote about these in May 2007. They were the National Security Presidential Directive 51 and Homeland Security Presidential Directive 20, which established under this new Office of National Continuity Coordinator, continuity of government theme, that the president could declare an emergency, a catastrophic emergency, and assume control of the operation of all levels of government, federal, state, local, territorial, and tribal, as well as private sector organizations that would need to continue functioning under the president's directives in the event of a national emergency without going to Congress. So those are there. Those remain powers now that President Obama could exercise. And again, there was no congressional vote approving or affirming these presidential directives. They were done strictly on the signature of President Bush. I also like to remind everyone, if you do a very careful analysis, there's a lot of these issues where President Obama is identical to President Bush. The grabbing of power, the willingness to have this North American Union. I've cautioned people that President Obama would break his campaign promises to renegotiate NAFTA. Those were just campaign promises that were issued when then candidate Obama was campaigning in states like Michigan and Ohio, where he wanted the votes of people who had lost their jobs to outsourcing to foreign governments, and to foreign countries rather, under NAFTA and our World Trade Organization, other international free trade agreements. So now Austin Goolsbee, you remember the candidate Obama was advised by this professor, Austin Goolsbee, who was fired by the campaign when he was discovered to have gone to Canada and said, wink, wink, don't worry, when candidate Obama becomes President Obama, he will not renegotiate NAFTA. Well, Austin Goolsbee's now rehired, and he's working with the Council of Economic Advisors within the White House. So this has all been a wink-wink game, and everything that President Bush did, or more, to create open borders and integrate North America, as I said in Like Great USA, is going to be done by President Obama, including reintroducing comprehensive immigration reform, which was, again, President Bush's push. So I see no difference whatsoever between President Bush and President Obama on North American integration. They're both globalists, and they're both on the agenda to create a North American Union from all the evidence I can see.
Absolutely. They are doing this incrementally. They are boiling us like a frog in a bucket of water. For those that don't know, it's true. I've talked to folks who eat frogs in Louisiana, Mississippi, and that's where these stories come from. You put a frog in cold water and slowly turn it up. He will sit there like it's a hot tub until it's boiling and die without jumping out. But you throw a frog into boiling water, he'll jump right out. And it's this incrementalism. People are like, where's the martial law, Alex? Where's the police state? Where's the North American Union? Where is it? I'm like, do you see the troops with sidearms arresting people at the Kentucky Derby, regular Army? Do you see the Super Bowl with troops? Do you see troops at the shooting in Alabama? Do you see troops at DWI checkpoints now? Do you see them with the jaws of life at car wrecks, all for PR? Do you see them using the Patriot Act in non-terror-related cases and violating due process everywhere? Do you see Obama saying he's going to sign a treaty and try to push it through Congress to literally ban guns, in the words of CNN? I'd read the thing and hadn't gotten that bad of an interpretation, though it does devastate the Second Amendment. All of this is going on.
What this does, I mean, this whole hoax, and this I think is clearly a hoax, this swine flu or N1H1 virus, what it does is it prepares people for being so scared that they are ready to accept military involvement, the UN's involvement, the World Health Organization's involvement is not questioned, and military involvement if the president declares it. Now, the fact that this is a hoax, you've got now the World Health Organization scrambling. They're now, which I see absolutely no basis here in the science or the history of viruses. They're now trying to argue that, going from person to pig, can it jump back? That's a story that's being reported right now by the Associated Press.
They're also saying it may mutate with other viruses or mutate on its own and become hyper deadly for the fall and winter, so you better take the vaccine they're going to have ready for that.